Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 168 of Build Your Stash and Craft. And today we are going to make metal book corners. This was a request and of course I lost my list, so thank you very much for the request. And so this is just what we're going to do today is make our own metal book corners. And they're very simple to do. I'll set this aside for just, well, no, let's keep this out. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is, if you're looking at these, you can see that my corners are not exactly the same length. This side is about 1 1/4, and then this side is, well, that one's 1 1/4 also. Let's see, this one is 1 1/4, and this one is just 1 inch. So, in order to just, you can eyeball it if you want to, which is what I did with these, but then they might not be exactly the same distance on the top and on the side. So what I decided to do this time was just go ahead and take your book and decide how far you want your book corner to come down. I like 1 inch. You can make them smaller, you can make them bigger, you can make them any size that you want to. But I'm just going to, and I don't want a pen, I want my pencil. And I'm just going to come and make sure you do it right on the edge of your book. You don't want to be like out here on your book because you don't want to see that mark. And because you're coming down on an angle, the only place that your foil is going to touch is going to be on the corner of the book. If you draw it out here, you're going to have that mark on your book. So I'm going to put a mark at 1 inch, starting here, 1 inch down, and then just put a mark here on the edge of my book so that I know how far I need to go when I put that on my book, when I put the corner on. And then I'm just going to do the same thing here, just 1 inch right on the edge of my book. And so now I'm ready. When I go to put that on, I know exactly where I need to put it, and I will probably come down just a touch from that line, just to make sure that I cover that up. And then we're just going to take a scrap of regular paper. And this is probably, we'll measure it, this is probably about 1.5 inches. It doesn't have to be any certain size exactly. Yep, that's between 1 1/4 and 1.5 inches. And this is going to be our template. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece of paper. We are going to just put it, kind of center it on our book, going to each of these lines. And like I said, I'm going to just barely cover that line. And then I'm going to fold it in. Hold it nice and tight, rub along the edge of your book, go up to the corner, and then do the same thing on the other side. Just go ahead and fold it at the point. Give it a nice fold, and we're going to do it just like that. Okay, now we wind up with a little bit sticking out the edge. So if you can see, there's a little bit sticking out there, and all I do is I just go in and just cut that off. Okay, so this is our book corner, and if we were to cut this straight across the back, this is what it would look like on the back. You're going to have a little bit of a gap there. And so once we get this part done, then what we're going to do, these two are made. This one is made with fun foam inside, so it's kind of puffy. This one is made with a piece of cardstock inside, so it is more flat. I usually do the flat ones, but once in a while, if I have a cover that's got a lot of depth to it, then I do a puffy corner because it kind of blends in better than really super flat. If I'm leaving my cover pretty flat like this, then I like to do the flatter ones. The reason you put something inside is so that you have something that when you draw on it, and I don't draw exactly on here, but when you go to put the dents in your metal, you want that paper underneath or that fun foam underneath to take that dent also, which helps you hold the dent. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a piece of my fun foam and just put the corner right up into that, fit it really nicely up in there. And just hold that nice and tight. Draw a line right there. And then just go ahead and cut that off. just like that. You also could just measure it 1 inch, 1 inch on your fun foam and just cut your fun foam. You don't have to do it this way. I don't know why I do it that way, I just do. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my cardstock, because we'll do one of each. And then just go ahead and give that a cut. And then depending on how many you want to do, if you want to do 4 of them, I normally put book corners on my front covers. I don't usually put them on the back cover. Some people put them on the front and the back. You can do it however you would like to. This one I'm going to do a fun foam one for the top at the back and a cardstock one for the bottom on the back. And then my book will match. So I'm going to set this aside. Keep this because you're going to want this. And then we're going to just get a little bit of aluminum foil. And the aluminum foil from the Dollar Tree is a little bit thin. It still works. If you have some heavier aluminum foil, that would work well too. And I'm just going to take this off. And now you also have a choice of, do you want the shiny side on top or do you want the matte side on top? I don't know if you can really tell the difference. This one has the shiny side on top and this one has the matte side on top. There really isn't much of a difference. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my corner and just set it on my foil and fold this over. Whoops. Just put it in there. And this is probably about 3 inches maybe. That's about 3.5 inches. So I fold it over and then I find my point of my cardstock, which is right there. And then I fold that over again. Give it a good press. And when you give it a press, then you can see where your little triangle is in there. Okay, I'm going to go to the back, or I'm going to cut off the back. Just right pretty even with that. I don't want it to stick out from the bottom. And you can actually cut it kind of, maybe we'll just do that because I don't want it to stick out the bottom. We'll just cut it up just a little bit on that back side because this is not going to show. This will be on the underside. So we're going to just do it like that. Okay. Then what we're going to do is just open this up and we're going to put some glue. And see my aluminum foil folded over right there? That's totally fine. We're going to put some glue on our cardstock. And just put it right back on there. I'm going to put some on each side to just to hold it in place, even though the foil is going to be wrapped around it. We don't want it shifting when we're putting our decoration on there. So I'm just going to put that back where it was because we had pressed on it, so it left a mark on our foil. And just press that out like that. And then I'm going to put a little bit right here on our foil. And actually, I forgot to put a little bit in here, just on each side of that. Just put a little in there. And then fold that down. Just give it all a squish. It'll squish all over. It might squish out the ends. That's totally fine. Just get rid of it. And there we go. Now we have our corner here. And this corner is going to fit on our book. And we're going to leave that corner just up a little bit because we want it to roll over there nicely. And even with your metal book corners that you buy from the store, they do have a little bit of a gap right there at the point. So we're just going to roll that around, just like that. And I don't know why I really did it that way. I should have just done it this way, because I want to line up those, I want to line up to those marks that we had made on there. And there we go. Now this is what our corner is going to look like. Now, the thing is, if you want them just plain, they look really pretty this way. You can leave them just like that, and they look nice. And with that little bit of backing in there, it does give it a little bit of thickness. I got a little glue on there. It gives it a little bit of thickness to make it not just look like, oh, you put a piece of foil on your paper. Now, when we turn it over, it looks like this. So then you're going to decide, what do you want to do with it? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go like this. I'm just going to go from corner to corner, like that. I'm just going to fold that up like that, and then I'm going to cut those off right there. Just give it a cut right there. Right there. And so now the back of the inside will look like this. Okay. Now you can make it so that your aluminum foil is longer and it folds over further, however you want to do it. I kind of wind up doing it a little bit different every time. But so there is our corner. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue my corner on. So just open it up and get some glue on it. And now you don't want it squishing out all over the place, but you do want to make sure that you get it glued right up to the edges. And normally on the inside of the covers of my books, I normally put a paper on the inside. So the most important place that you want to make sure that it doesn't squirt out is the front, because you don't want it squishing out onto the cover of your book, because you have probably, by the time you put your corners on, you may have already decorated that. So again, I'm just going to line it up, press it down. I'm going to look at the inside, make sure it looks okay on the inside, and it does. And there we go. So now we have the book corner on there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our original piece here and we're going to draw on it to put a decoration on it. Now the reason that I do this is because normally I want my book corners to match. If you see these two book corners, I don't know if you can really tell, but they both match. They're both the same. And they're the same because what I had done was I had my template, and I drew on my template, and then when I was all done, I took it off of there, and then I put it down here and did the same thing. So that way they match. Now, when you do the fun foam in the other, this one lifts it up a little bit. So this one wound up being right along there. And then this one wound up, because that one was fatter, it kind of came down a little bit closer to the edge there. So that's something that, you know, if you're using fun foam and fun foam, it won't make any difference. But if you're using your cardstock and cardstock, it will make a difference. But if you're using the two, it will move just a little bit. It'll fit down a little further onto the flat one, onto the cardstock, than it does onto the puffy, yes, fun foam. Okay, so now I'm going to take this template and I'm going to slide it onto my corner here. And if you have to kind of move it a little bit, you know, you can do that because you want to get it down to the edge. And I've got glue all over my hands. just kind of round that in there. And then, you know, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to glue it or anything else. But then you're going to, I'm not going to make them the same, you know, because I want you to like see how it turns out, you know, right from the start. So I'm just going to put this one on here. And then I'm just going to draw something, you know, just draw something on here. Like maybe just start right at the top point, go right out to that point, and just draw a line down here. I'll kind of do this one fairly simple, just so that it doesn't take forever. But you can make them as intricate as you want to. Now, if you want this pen to be on your aluminum foil, you don't have to do this. I do this because to me, you have a less risk of ripping your aluminum foil, because, you know, you're actually, you know, pushing into the paper. You're not pushing into the aluminum foil. And so you just do like that, and then maybe we'll just put a circle here and here. And let's just put a little X here. And like I said, you can, you know, and you can plan it out ahead of time and, you know, just draw it on there, sketch it on there to make sure that you like it before you go ahead and start on your book corner, because you've got that corner glued on there. So once you start, you kind of got to hope you like it, because it's there, and it's on the foil that you had. Now be careful when you're coming to the edge not to get pen marks on your book. And it's not necessarily going to be perfect, and it's not supposed to be perfect. You know, we're making these all on our own. And so, you know, they're gonna look handmade. And that's the whole point of making your own, is so that it looks like it's handmade. Maybe just put a dot here, and then put a dot here. Okay, now it's time for the big reveal. Okay, we're gonna stop right there. There's not much room left on there. And so now I'm gonna just slide this off. And now if you can see it, now we have a pattern on our book corner. Now you can leave them nice shiny silver. You can put a little bit of paint on them to antique them. And we'll do the, go ahead and do the fun foam. Oops, I don't want that. Do the fun foam one really quick. Again, I'm just gonna put this on here. Fold it up. Fold it at the point. And that's because I don't want the point of the paper or the point of that fun foam showing on the corner of my book. And that's why I do, you know, the 2 rolls. That way it's folded over here and it's folded over there, and we don't have to worry about the point of that triangle showing through. Just going to cut this across here. And put our glue on it. Well, I'm getting low. Just going to put glue on both sides, on the whole thing. And then I'm going to line it up where right where I had pressed on it. I can see right where it goes. I'll put some glue in here. Yeah, and then put some glue on here. And now I did both of these shiny. I never thought to make them match the other side as far as this one was shiny, but the other one I did on the matte side of the foil. But nobody's going to notice. There's not really that much of a difference. And I'm going to put this one on here. And the Fun Foam ones, they really are, they're kind of fun as far as, you know, just, you know, the fact that you've got that puff to it. But I'm just going to get it lined up there. And I didn't put marks on my book, but I'm just going to, I already know, you know, that I cut my triangle the right size. Just do that like that. And then I'm just going to cut this off. Just like that. And then we're going to glue this one on. If we have any glue left. That's why I didn't set it on its bottom. Again, remember that you want to make sure that you glue it down well. And I never really worry so much about the back as far as, you know, if I squish any out, but on the front, I do want to make sure I don't squish it out the bottom so it doesn't get on the cover of my journal. Oh, and I do have the marks on here because I had done those before we got on camera. So we're just gonna, and if you have glue squishing out the back, you know, while you're, especially while you're working on it, just take a piece of parchment or something and stick it under there, even maybe a little bit of your foil. You know, you just don't want that to glue down to your book page. Although we're going to put this over top of it, so that's going to cover it up. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this on here. Now, because this is the Fun Foam, it's a little fatter. So I'm going to have to kind of open it up and line it up at the bottom. Ooh, oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. And then just wrap that around there. Now, I'm going to have to be careful on these center lines because they're going to want to. My pen's going to get on it, which I don't mind the pen getting on there, but I don't want to rip my foil, especially on the Fun Foam. On the Fun Foam, start pressing, then press a little harder and a little harder. Don't press really hard right from the start. You've got to give that foil a little bit of time to stretch as you're moving it. And I think I just put a hole in it. We're going to go here. Now, normally you wouldn't rip your pattern in half, and this is another reason to do it on the paper, because by doing it on the paper, okay, now I'm going to stop right there because I have already ripped my foil. And I don't want that to happen. So I'm just kind of smoothing it out just a little bit. And I'm going to, since I messed that up, what I'm going to do is take the corner of this, put it in here, like that. And then I'm going to draw on here, pressing to make sure that I get a dent, and it's okay if my pen goes through. And then I'll be able to use this as my pattern. So if you do rip it, you can just do like that. And then I'm going to look at that to make sure as I put my lines on here that I'm actually seeing what I think I'm seeing. So I'm going to go like this. Now, because I didn't fold this piece of paper up the way that this one is folded, I am just going to have to just hold it on the corner. And if you don't want your corners to match, then you can just fold a piece of paper like we did that one. And, you know, do one for each corner. And then basically this is about where my bottom is. So now I have ripped that. Now what I could have done is just took that right off. I wouldn't really want to just put another piece of aluminum foil over top of it, because then you would have all of these straight edges. You don't really want this little edge of the foil. You want a folded edge, because it makes it look more like kind of like a solid piece of metal. So I'm just going to kind of line this up and try this again. And like I said, you know, just a little bit heavier and a little bit heavier as you go, so that you don't rip your aluminum foil. Now the reason I ripped it was because I was actually drawing right on the foil, and it's not a really super thick foil. So the pen ripped it as it was going across. That's why we have the paper on here, because the paper protects our aluminum foil. Once the glue underneath dries and everything, they're pretty sturdy. Did I get it all? And I did. Now this one is just really quite messy. It doesn't quite look like the one that we have here, or like what we have here. See, that's the fun foam, and it does work, but because I had already really kind of messed it up, I was not really able to save it very well. This up in here is really, really messy. Now I could try and just draw my design on there. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to leave that like that. It still has a bit of a pattern on it. You know, it's all right. When I put the paint on it, that it's going to show up. And I don't have any black paint here, so we're going to use this maroon paint. You can use a sponge or something to put this on here. Now the only thing is that you do want to be careful. Let's use this piece of paper. This is glued down, so you can't get underneath of it, but you want to get right up to the edge of it to protect your book. And then still be careful not to try and not get paint over the edge here too much. And I try and like kind of go down the outside edge of the book. Just kind of go like that. And then let that sit for just a minute, and then we'll just wipe it off with just wipe it off with a napkin, paper towel, something like that. Just a little bit more paint. Make sure that you do the edges. Of course, and that's up to you too, whether you want to do the edges or not. They're not, they don't have dents in them, you know, they don't have a pattern in them. The whole point is to get the paint down into the pattern, not just on the top of the foil. So if you see a spot, there was a spot there where I could see silver down in the dent, so I made sure that I rubbed that in there, because we're going to wipe it off the top and leave what's in the dent. That's antiquing. And if you want, you can even leave them like that. Even that's pretty. It looks really nice with the cover of this book. But I'm just going to grab a napkin here. Just grabbing a napkin, and then let's see, we did this one first. So, again, you might want to, so that you don't wipe it onto your book, put a piece of paper on there right up to the edge, and then just lightly wipe it off. And you wipe it off as far down as you want to, moving your napkin, because once I'm wiping, as I'm wiping, I'm getting paint on my napkin, and so that napkin's not necessarily removing any paint anymore. It's just kind of taking it off and putting it back on again because there's still paint there. And you just go ahead and you do that until you get it as much off as you want to. Just like that. You want to be careful when you're putting your paper up here not to use a spot that you already used that has some paint on it from the other end. And then you get that paint on your book. Depending on the color of your book and the color of your paint, it might not make a difference, but I want to try to not get a big maroon splotch on my tan cover. Come right in here because I really don't like how thick it is here. There was just too much paint there. So here we go. So here's the one with the better design in it. And you can see the design and how that stands out with the paint in it. And here's the other one. It's not as good, but it still looks good. And so there we go. That is our... And I put that over the edge. Being a color, I don't usually do them in color. I don't really care for it on the edge in color. The black kind of just mutes itself right in with the silver, so I just kind of I don't want that there. And take it off and leave it silver. Here we go. Alrighty, so those are our book corners, and I will be back in just a second to show you what we need for next week. Okay, I am back, and for next week, we are going to need some of our the little flat glass beads, and we are going to need some super glue, the liquid kind of super glue, not the gel type super glue, and some of our wire, and some paint, some fingernail polish possibly. That's probably about it. So so the only thing that we'll have to pick up that we don't have in our stash is the liquid super glue. So we'll pick this up for next week, and that will cost us $1. Right now we have $46.50 in our bank. We're going to save $4, and so we will have $50.50 in our bank for next week. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I do like the way that these book corners turn out. I think that they turn out really nice, and I really never done them in color, I don't think. And I kind of like that, especially since it matches my book spine. So, but that is our project for this week. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that if you make some that you have a good time. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you have a place to share my videos, please share them. That just gives me more views, and that's good for me. And so thank you very much. I really appreciate you. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.